Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Vishnu Pada Paramahansa Pravijikacharya Stotra Chata Shishimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavanda ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Okay. All glories to somebody devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to somebody devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to somebody devotees, Hare Krishna. Okay. I don't know how. I have your phone? Yeah, please 3, 9, 11.
Verse 11?
Yeah. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Okay. Tvam Bhakti Yoga Paribhavita Hrit Saroje Ase Shuta Ikshita Patah Nanu Natha Pungsam Yat Yat Dhiya Te Urugaya Bhivavayanti Tat Tat Vapuhu Pranayase Sat Anugrahaya Sat Anugrahaya Tam Bhakti Yoga Paribhavita Hit Saroja
paribhavita hrit saroja.
आशेषु ते क्षित पथमननुनाथ पुंसाम्
Aseshu te kshitapatho nananata pungsam.
यद्यद्यातदुर्गाय भिभावयन्ति
Yadhyata urugaya vibhavayanti.
तत्तद्वपुः प्रणयसे सदनुग्रहाय
Tadvapuh pranayase saranugrahaya.
त्वं भक्तियोगपरिभावितहृत्सरोज
Yoga paribhavita hrit saroja.
आशेषु ते क्षितपथो ननुनाथ पुंसाम्
Aseshu te kshitapatho nanunatha pungsam.
यद्यद्यातद् उरुगाय विभावयति यन्ति
Yadhyata vibhavayanti.
तत्तद्वपुः प्रणयसे सदनुग्रहाय
Tadvapuh pranayase saranugrahaya.
त्वं भक्तियोगपरिभावितहृत्सरोज
Bhakti yoga paribhavita hrit saroja.
आशेषु ते क्षितपथो ननुनाथ पुंसाम्
Seshu te kshitapatho nanunatha pungsam.
यद्यद्दियातदुरुगाय भिवायन्ति
Yadhyata durgaya vibhavayanti.
तत्तद्वपु प्रणयसे सदनुग्रहाय
Tadvapuh pranayase saranugrahaya.
Bhakti Yoga Paribhavita Hrit Saroja
Tam bhakti yoga paribhavita hrit saroja.
Aseshu Diksha Patunanunata Punsam
Aseshu te kshitapatho nanunatha pungsam.
Yadyadhyata Durugaya Vibhavayanti
Yadhyata durgaya vibhavayanti.
Tadvapuh Pranayasi Sadanugrahaya
Tattvapuh pranayase saranugrahaya. Tam bhakti yoga paribhavita hrit saroja.
भक्तियोगः परिभावसंयोजः
Aseshu te kshitapatho nanunatha pungsam. Yadhyata durgaya vibhavayanti. Tattvapuh pranayase saranugrahaya.
Tam bhakti yoga paribhavita hrit saroja
Tam bhakti yoga paribhavita hrit saroja.
Aseshu tikshita patho nanunata pungsam
Aseshu te kshitapatho nanunatha pungsam.
Yadyata durgaya vibhavayanti
Yadhyata durgaya vibhavayanti.
Tattadvatu pranataye sadanugrahaya
Pranayase saranugrahaya.
Mataji, Bhakti Yoga Saroja
Aseshu te kshitapatho nanunatha pungsam. Yadhyata durgaya vibhavayanti. Pranayase saranugrahaya.
Okay. Tvam, unto you, Bhakti Yoga,
Bhakti yoga
in devotional service, Paribhavita, being 100% engaged, Hrit, of the heart, Saroje, on the lotus, Ase, you reside, Shrita, Ikshita, seeing through the ear, Pataha, the path, Nanu, now, Natha, O my Lord, Pungsam, of the devotees, Yat, whichever, Dhiya, by meditating, Te, your, Urugaya, O multi-glorious, Bhivavayanti, they specifically think of you. The same, this very same, Vapuhu, transcendental form, Pranayase, do you manifest, Sat Anugrahaya, to show your causeless mercy. Translation and report by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O my Lord, your devotees can see you through the ears by the process of bona fide hearing, and thus their hearts become cleansed, and you take your seat there. You are so merciful to your devotees that you manifest yourself in the particular eternal form of transcendence in which they always think of you. Purport. The statement here that the Lord manifests himself before the devotee in the form in which the devotee likes to worship him indicates that the Lord becomes subordinate to the desire of the devotee. So much so that he manifests his particular form as the devotee demands. This demand of the devotee is satisfied by the Lord because he is pillable in terms of transcendental loving service to the devotee. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tang sathaiva bhajamyaham. We should note, however, that the Lord is never order supplier of the devotee. Here in this verse, it is particularly mentioned, Tam bhakti yoga paribhavita. This indicates the efficiency achieved through execution of matured devotion service or prema, love of Godhead. This state of prema is achieved by a gradual process of development from faith to love. On faith, one associates bona fide devotees, and by association, one can become engaged in bona fide devotion service, which includes proper initiation and execution of the primary devotional duties prescribed in the review scriptures. This is clearly indicated herein by the word Shrutekshita. The Shrutekshita path is to hear from the bona fide devotees who are conversant with Vedic wisdom, free from mundane sentiment. By this bona fide hearing process, the unified devotee becomes cleansed of all material rubbish, and thus he becomes attached to one of the many transcendental forms of the Lord, as described in the Vedas. This attachment of the devotee to a particular form of the Lord is due to natural inclination. Each and every living entity is originally attached to a particular type of transcendental service because he is eternally the servitor of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya says that the living entity is eternally a servant of the Supreme Personality God, is Shri Krishna. Therefore, every living entity has a particular type of service relationship with the Lord eternally. This particular attachment is invoked by practice of regular devotional service to the Lord, and thus the devotee becomes attached to the eternal form of the Lord, exactly like one who is already eternally attached. This attachment for a particular form of the Lord is called Sarupa Siddhi. The Lord sits on the lotus heart of the devotee in the eternal form the pure devotee desires, and thus the Lord does not part from the devotee, as confirmed in the previous verse. The Lord, however, does not disclose himself to a casual or authentic worshipper to be exploited. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavritah. Rather, by yogamaya, the Lord remains concealed to the non-devotees or casual devotees who are serving their sense gratification. The Lord is never visible to the pseudo devotees who worship the demigods in charge of the universal affairs. The conclusion is that the Lord cannot become the order supplier of the pseudo devotees, but he is always prepared to respond to the desire of a pure, unconditional devotee who is free from all tinges of material infection. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunvitamena Tasmai Shugurvina Sri Chaitanya Mano Vishnu Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sopadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shita Patakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagar Jatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Shriya Sadhuitam Savaditam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lita Shri Vijakan Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinavanda Jagatpati Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kantanam Siddha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwanushite Devi Pranamami Hribe Vanchakalpatarubhya Kripasindhabhya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo 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 Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtabhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminitanane Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtabhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminitanane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prasharini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pashyate Deshitarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jnanananda Mayam Devam Nirlam Spratikakritam Adharam Sarva Vidyanam Hai Guru Pasmi. Guru Vaishnava Bhagavanti Nirasmarana Hoy Vigna Vinachana Naya Shahe Nija Panchita Purana. Here, learning the process of devotion service from Lord Brahma here, that specifically defining the process of how one approaches Krishna, being a very important principle. Emphasized specifically within. It's there in all Vaishnava lines, but we see that very prominently within our Gaudiya Vaishnava line, within the coming from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the need to hear from the spiritual master, and not the need just to hear, but to understand what you're hearing. That this is the process, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, that one specifically begins with the process of hearing. Because without the process of hearing, one cannot understand anything. Everybody wants to see God, and Srila Prabhupada would often say that about atheists, like, can you show me God? He's like, no, but you have to be qualified to see Him. That is the point. One cannot just see, one has to have the knowledge to see, just like even the scientists. They're able to see beyond a level that an ordinary person can see who has not studied science. They can understand, a biologist can understand the different processes that go under, that a plant undergoes in order to, produce fruit, in order to produce oxygen. But we cannot see that. We just see, we don't see all of those different processes going. Even though the biologist, maybe with his eyes, he may be not seeing, but through the eye of knowledge, he's able to understand what is going on. Just like even a gardener is able to understand what is going on. He plants a seed. To us, there is, to an ordinary person, you can't see the seed in the ground, but because he knows how long that seed takes, how to water it, how to perform that process to which to give life to that seed, to make it bear fruit or give fruit, it knows how, the gardener knows how to water that seed properly or nurture that seed properly in order to fructify it, so that one may eventually see that happen. But for a person who may not understand such a position of gardening or something, he won't see anything. He won't see the seeds, he won't see how to water it, he won't know what to do at all. So one has to understand the process by which he can see, because here it's being described by Lord Brahma very clearly. Your devotees can see you through the ears by the process of bona fide hearing. That Krishna is not seen with our eyes. We have many people that come, or they may claim sometimes, either crazy people or like even Hindus, I see Krishna, I saw Krishna in my dream, and I see Krishna everywhere. I see Krishna, by the Yamuna, I see so many things. I saw Krishna with the gopis last night in my dream. So many people come like that. Showing attachment to Krishna, some level of attachment. Okay, I saw Krishna. Okay, good. All right, you saw Krishna. It's not, to some extent. Okay, great. But what does it mean to see Krishna? You can't just, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would tell a particular person that you must have seen a ghost, not Krishna. That somebody particularly came to him and said, I saw Krishna. And he said, you must have not seen Krishna, you must have seen a ghost. Because Krishna is not seen through our material eyes. And we can see, we come into devotional service, and a lot of people expect that you come to Krishna consciousness and immediately you'll be able to see God, and you feel some crazy thing in your heart, and you overwhelmingly love, overflowing. That's kind of what the whole idea of devotion is given, at least in the pseudo-modern devotional society, is that you come into Krishna consciousness and you get in the kirtan and you sit and you go in front of the Lord, and then you have this divine revelation that will come about, maybe, but most of the time that's not the case. That devotional service itself, that's not actually what it means to be in devotional service. That may be an advanced form, but at least to those who are, and that won't be displayed anyways, even if it is there by a pure devotee. Very rarely that the bhajan of the devotee is generally hidden. It's not displayed to the masses. So when it is displayed, then one has to be careful to see whether that is actual real display of such things. So the platform of hearing, the whole Krishna consciousness movement, or actually the whole Vedic culture, is built on actually Shravan. Because you see that every temple, my spiritual master was describing that every temple is actually situated like that. There's a place to sit. And it's described that you should come and sit in the temple, not for the purpose of sitting there for the sake of your religious idea, but for the sake of hearing, that the Brahmanas are meant to perform a worship, sacrifice, and they're meant to explain that sacrifice, and by which the people, when they hear that sacrifice, they become inclined to perform devotional service. There's a purpose of all speaking, is to incline people towards Vishnu Bhakti. So the place of sitting for the temple is not to come and have a social scene. It's not to come and particularly display ourselves as a great kirtaniya or a great speaker or such and such, but it's for the purpose of understanding the service of the Lord, understanding the Lord Himself. And so there's a process of doing that. So it's often that, growing up in that tradition of Vedic, somewhat level of resemble of Vedic tradition, that you go, or you have pujaris or gurus that come to your house and they perform sacrifices or such and such, but they have no idea what they're reciting, and actually they don't know the meaning of it. So most Hindu kids, they recite all the Bhagavad Gita and they'll know all of the verses, but they won't know the purports or the translations of the what Krishna is speaking. So practically it has no use. Although at the same time, because it is Veda, of course it always has its benefit. But at the same but when we're talking of the Parodharma, when we're talking of the topmost understanding of our existence, then it has no use, because it is just another. They've taken it to be another material thing. So one materializes Krishna's words also because he is not able to see through them. That he thinks that it's just another set of prayers, just because as a religious sentiment. So Krishna cannot be captured in such a way, not by some just religious sentiment, but Krishna has to be seen through the eyes of Shastra, seen through the eyes of knowledge. Particularly, one has to hear from a bona fide spiritual master, as being related here, and as being related by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur here in Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhav. So, when a devotee requested of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, "Be merciful to me, I want to see Bhagavan in this life," he reproved, "Will you see Bhagavan or will Bhagavan see you? For your own satisfaction, you want to see Bhagavan. This is not correct attitude." Thus, again insinuating that simply an impression of the retina is not sufficient for seeing the Supreme Lord. To actually see Him, one must serve the Guru and be awarded divine vision. As Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati insisted, the path to see God is by service, inclined subservience to the Guru, who is transparent representative of the Parampara, and by waiting for and expecting the mercy of Krishna. So Srila Saraswati Thakur emphasized that hearing from devotees is more important than independently reading Shastra or attempting to see the Lord directly. He would cite Shutekshita Pataha, the path of seeing by hearing, and explain vision of Krishna cannot be attained only through the medium of the ear by hearing Harikatha from pure Vaishnavas. When a man told him, while sitting on the riverside yesterday, "I saw Krishna," Srila Saraswati Thakur asked, "Did you not see Maya? If you are still seeing Maya, it means you did not see Krishna. You must have seen a ghost. The test of seeing Krishna is to no longer be interested in Maya. Anyone can say he has seen Krishna, but Rupa Goswami says, Smeram bhangi traya prechitam sachi vestirina drishtim vangsinistadhara kishalayam ujjvala chandrakena govindakayam haritanum ita keshitirtha pakante mam prekshitastwaya tava yadi shakale bandhu sangya stri sarangah." My dear friend, if you are attached to the worldly friends who do not look at the smiling face of Govinda, as he stands on the bank of the Yamuna at Kishighat, casting sidelong glances, he places his flute to his freshly blossoming lips. His transcendental body, bending in three places, appears very bright in the moonlight. So if you are still attached to Maya, you could not see Govinda. For if you had really seen Govinda, you could no longer remain attached to Maya. So there's more here, but I'll continue that in a little bit. So one cannot try to see Krishna with his eyes. One cannot expect to see Krishna with his eyes. One must be ready to hear, because actually we are completely blocked up by the material desires within the heart, as Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here, that one has to be free from tinges of all material desire in order for the Lord to come and reside within the heart, that the heart must be cleaned. Our own spiritual master, Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, was describing in a lecture that somebody asked him, should we lock Krishna up in our heart? He said, what will you lock him up in all the dirty, nasty thing that's there? That it must first be cleared, because actually that is what is stopping the vision. Because all of the different coverings that are there for the living entity, for the jiva, of false ego, pride, all of these things are actually what's stopping us from seeing Krishna. And because these eyes, the material eyes, specifically seeing through having the vision through the modes of material nature, influenced by, whatever, our karma, all of these things, we cannot see, even if Krishna is right in front of us. I mean, we see Krishna every day in one sense that we have so many nice pictures of Krishna and they're non-different, and we have nice deities, pictures of nice deities on our altar, but factually, we cannot say we're seeing Krishna, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, that by seeing Krishna, one actually, the symptom of that is that he drops all material desires, or he has become purified. He no longer sees Maya. He sees everything as Krishna's, as we've been describing previously in a few set of lectures, that there's no separatist idea when one sees Krishna. So in another lecture, this is called Gaining Taste of Bhajan or something like that by Bhakti Vikas Maharaj. He mentions that often in India you'll see that people are very attached to Krishna. It's true, and Srila Prabhupada would say like that also, that they're naturally inclined towards Krishna consciousness from the time they are born. But at the same time, although that level is there, it's not to a very high level. And generally, they'll have a doll of Krishna, they'll have, songs about Krishna, but at the same time, they're very attached to their material life, very attached to home, country, name, fame, adoration, this body, the extensions of this body, family attachment is very deep. So, by those symptoms one can see, well, okay, there's a level of attachment there to Krishna because they're born into that culture, but it's actually not that of the ultimate position of which one is in Sarva Dharma Paritaja Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. That is the point at which one can actually see the Lord. So it is a very difficult position to come to, and it's not very simple. Therefore, here, you can see even our acharyas exhibited that when people would ask them, have you seen Krishna? When a man told him, while sitting on the riverside yesterday, I saw Krishna, Srila Saraswati, oh wait, that's a different one. Sorry. Okay, here. A Jamindar who was granted a private meeting with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati sat close to him and earnestly whispered, have you seen Bhagavan? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati retorted, what is the use if I say I have or haven't seen? As long as you do not know how to see Godhead, any statements about my seeing Him cannot benefit you. You must learn how to see Godhead. Otherwise, anyone can tell you that he has seen the Supreme Lord, and you'll be hoodwinked. The Zamindar was not satisfied with the reply and repeatedly asked, have you seen him? Have you seen him? But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati stuck to his point. Without knowing who is the Supreme and the authorized process of seeing Him, any such declaration, I have seen God, will only serve to deceive you. Pursuant to this point, he once explained that without lacerating a kudarshan, wrong philosophies, by sudarshan, correct philosophies, one can attain Bhagavad darshan, audience of Bhagavan. So kudarshan and sudarshan is a very important point here, that sometimes people may come and have so many misconceptions about who Krishna is. It's like people come, oh yeah, have you seen Krishna? But you don't even know who Krishna is. You're thinking that I am Krishna, that we're all Krishna, but I'm in Maya, so I just haven't understood yet. So they're coming with so many misconceptions, and the acharyas particularly make the point to hit on that no. Even Srila Prabhupada would tell people, some lady came and said, I saw Jagannath, and I saw Jagannath in my dream, and he instructed me like this and like that. And Srila Prabhupada said, I never seen such a thing. Srila Prabhupada, who is a pure devotee of the Lord, performing direct service to Krishna in so many amazing ways, establishing Krishna in so many different, all over the world, is saying, well, I didn't see such a thing. Although there's no doubt that Srila Prabhupada is seeing Krishna at every moment. Sometimes acharyas, or most of the time acharyas will make the point, no. You must see through Sudarshan, that correct philosophy, that you do not understand actually what the correct philosophy is to see Krishna. And you have not heard properly, so therefore you are not qualified to see. And if I try to deceive, if I tell you that I have seen, then you may be deceived. So it is important for devotees, even we get asked, have you seen God? No. Do you have any divine experiences? No. Why? What do you want? What is your idea of divine experience? You don't understand what divine is. So then why should I tell you? Our own bhajan or our own experiences we have in devotional service, we shall not reveal those to anyone, actually, apart from those few Vaishnavas that are there that can understand properly, or that may give proper audience, or maybe establish in proper philosophy. Shall not explain to karmis our relationship or our different experiences with devotional service that are, they always want that divine. Or, can you tell me like a divine, like have you had a divine revelation? No. Then what have you been doing all this time? What are you dedicated to? Serving Krishna, that's it. It's very simple. It's very simple. The process of Krishna consciousness is very simple. And just as Srila Prabhupada explains, just as a hungry man, when he eats, then naturally the body becomes nourished, and the hunger simultaneously goes away. Similarly, how do we understand that this is a divine process? The hunger for material desire goes away, and the attraction for Krishna is aroused. It becomes more and more and more. Our inclination to serve Krishna becomes more and more, and give up our own nonsense idea becomes more and more and more. So, this is the process of devotional service. It is not done by some sentiment. It is not done by some cheap method of, okay, let me try to see God. But it's actually, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur relates, let me try to act in such a way that God would want to see me. Are you taking darshan, or is the Lord taking darshan of you? Are you trying to enjoy the Lord, or should the Lord be enjoying you? So the method of worship by which we perform in this line of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, or this Gaudiya Vaishnava, or the Vaishnava line in general, is to try to please the Lord. And that is particularly done, as related here, through serving the spiritual master. That it begins by Shraddha, begins by faith. Faith that by performing this process I will come up. Faith in the Vaishnavas. Then Bhajana Kriya is there, and then Anartha Nivriti. And then from Anartha Nivriti there's Ruchi, some taste, and then going all the way up to Prema, Bhava. So in order to be able to come to that process, this is very important to develop hearing, Shrutikshita, the path of hearing from bona fide devotees, free from mundane sentiment, to recognize our mundane sentiment and put those aside. That's a very important point Srila Prabhupada is making here, that the Shrutikshita path is hearing from bona fide devotees who are conversant in the Vedic wisdom, free from mundane sentiment. By this bona fide process, the neophyte devotee becomes cleansed of all material rubbish, and thus he becomes attached to one of the many transcendental forms of the Lord as described in the Vedas. So it must be emphasized again and again that hearing is there, but it must also be done free from mundane sentiment. That it is not just for the sake of, sometimes the guru comes and we just come as a part of the sentiment to come and see him. But then outside of that, we may not hear from him properly, or we may not serve him properly. But it's mundane sentiment. Okay, the guru comes and then you just turn up just to see the guru, and then okay, here's my dakshina, here's my once a year that I come and offer a few prayers, and then that's it. That is not guru puja, that is not guru worship. That the worship of the guru is oftentimes, sometimes we see, even Krishna defines that the worship of the Vaishnava is greater than even worship of me. And as Prahlad Maharaj defines, that actually my first position is to serve my own spiritual master, Narada Muni. So actually the position of the Vaishnava is to primarily hear from his own spiritual master, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur just was relating here, that actually not even independent study of one in Shastra by itself can one attain this vision, or the proper understanding to see Krishna. That one must hear from a bona fide teacher, one must hear from the guru. It is not an option just to study the Vedas, it is not an option. That is the purport of the Vedas also, that one must approach a spiritual master and hear from him. Because he will be able to throw out all our rubbish. He will be able to speak in such a way, understanding where we're at, and bring us up from that level. Shastra does that in a systematic way. But there is that individual relationship with the spiritual master, in which the spiritual master enters, through the sword of knowledge, he enters into our very specific material desires that we have, the anarthas that are there within our heart, and uproots those certain material desires by different processes, whether by engaging us in different types of services or by speaking in such a way to point out our faults. So that without the spiritual master, it is hopeless, actually. Without the captain of the ship, it is you can't stir, you don't have the ability to go in the proper direction. Although the wind of the Vedas may be there, favorable winds may be there. So there's no question of coming to this level of Swarupa Siddhi without actually having this Sudarshan, correct philosophy. If one doesn't have correct philosophy and one doesn't understand correct philosophy, that may not particularly also mean that one is fully conversant in understanding inside out of devotion service. He may also have the purport of it in his life in general also. He understands that he's a servant of Krishna, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Leaving aside everything else, he simply just performs his service to his spiritual master and to Krishna. That's it. Correct philosophy doesn't particularly mean just being able to sit up on the Vyasa sun or being able to speak to someone about the intricacies of devotional service and being very particular and right about every piece of detail about the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. That is there, of course, and that is not that to be neglected, but that is to be seen that just because one knows all of the different intricacies of devotional service in terms of the philosophy, jnana, but his practice of that philosophy is more than useless. He speaks a lot but has no inclination towards doing service to the Vaishnavas and to Krishna, then it is of no use also. So what is Sudarshan? What is Kudarshan and what is Sudarshan? Sudarshan means to be able to understand and apply the Krishna consciousness philosophy. It's not just some jnana, it's not just something to know, but it means to actually properly study and apply it in our life. So therefore Srila Prabhupada writes in Srimad Bhagavatam, as Maharaj was also relating, that if one studies this Bhagavatam carefully, he can see Krishna in every page. That one can derive all benefits by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, as one can by seeing the Lord, as if he was personally here. That this Bhagavatam is Krishna himself. But one must have the eyes to see, one must perform service, be in that attitude of service, because that is the real problem of the jiva, the attitude of by which he is performing that service. One may know so much, may study so much Srimad Bhagavatam, but he may be puffed up with that knowledge of learning Bhagavatam. We have so many people who do Bhagavad Saptas and all of these things, but factually they're seen that they're not at all devotional. Just like if you've heard this recent talk by Maharaj in Vrindavan, he says the most famous Bhagavatam reciter was a Mayavadi in Vrindavan before Srila Prabhupada established Krishna Balaram Mandir and established the Krishna consciousness movement very prominently there. So the Bhagavatam is there, but the real thing is the purport of the Bhagavatam, and then the living the Bhagavatam, the Bhagavata. That is Sudarshan. Correct philosophy means in acting in accordance with the correct philosophy, in acting in accordance with the mood of a complete surrendered devotee of Krishna, leaving aside all else. That one is completely surrendered at the lotus feet of Krishna. That is what it means to have Sudarshan. And by that Sudarshan, Bhagavad Darshan is attained, that one can attain Bhagavad Darshan, audience of Bhagavan, that Krishna wants to see him. Krishna sees him. He sees the devotional service of the Lord. He's attracted by the service of Radha. Krishna is very much attracted by the supreme service of Radha, one who is the worshipper, the supreme worshipper. And then there's that lecture by serving Radha on the streets, as Bhakti Vikas Maharaj also gave that lecture, that one goes out onto the streets and performs service to Krishna with an unmotivated desire, without any material desire, and one attains Bhagavad Darshan. One gets the darshan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one gets the mercy of Srimati Radharani, by which he himself will be able to see Krishna face to face at every moment. So this hearing is, as being emphasized, that this hearing is more important than even seeing the deity in the temple. Not that we don't see the deity in the temple, but without hearing, you won't be able to see the deity at all. You won't be able to understand your position in relationship to Krishna. And we won't be able to understand how to perform that process by which we can come up in Krishna consciousness. So, first and foremost is hearing about Krishna. Not just hearing about the pastimes of Krishna. Hearing about Krishna means also taking out all these kudarshans, wrong philosophies, or wrong understandings, or wrong attitudes, wrong behaviors. All of these things constitute coming to the platform of Krishna consciousness. Without them, it's not possible. You can't just learn Bhagavad Gita and expect to become a pure devotee of the Lord. You have to carry out the process of being under the spiritual master. So this first thing is hearing. First thing one must hear. And then when one hears and becomes attached to hearing, one becomes attached to chanting, the modes of material nature will subside. As Srila Prabhupada writes this many, many times throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam, that when one hears about Krishna, one chants about Krishna, and he serves Krishna, then the purification takes place, and he attains more attraction towards that hearing, more attraction towards the chanting, and he slowly comes to the platform of being able to see Krishna more and more in his life in different ways. He doesn't just see, you may see face to face, it doesn't mean I see Krishna running around, but he sees how everything it belongs to Krishna. How Krishna is Bhaktaram Yagyatapasam, how he is the supreme enjoyer, how he is the only enjoyer. That is seeing Krishna. That we don't see ourselves right now in our material state of consciousness, we're seeing ourselves. Okay, myself, I'm the center of this activity, that activity. But when one develops the mood of an attitude of seeing Krishna as the center of all activities, then he sees Krishna. But that is only attained through hearing. Otherwise one cannot understand. Do we want vagina or do we want Krishna? It's very clear. So it very clearly defines our position. Otherwise we can never understand what is real Krishna consciousness and what is false Krishna consciousness, because people may be able to display, oh, I know Swarupa Siddhi. If you go to Vrindavan, so many will say, okay, I will give you, what is this process called? Siddha Pranali, by which you can know your Swarupa Siddhi straight away. Okay, here, initiation, bang. And obviously that process was there in the past, but it's particularly not done because it is a form of cheating. That one doesn't try to wipe out the material desires, but one tries to simply get that cheap. Oh, okay, this is my siddhi, I'm this gopi, I'm this gopa, such and such and such. But actually all of these things are not required at our level. One simply has to understand that he's a servant of Krishna, and one's eternal Swarupa will naturally be revealed again to that process of purification. What is that verse? That it is not something to be gained, but it is to be awakened, that is already there. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunai. And then Shuddha Chitta Shravanadi. What is it? Shravanadi Suddha Chitta Kuru. That it is not something to be attained, it is something already there. Shravanadi. And one just actually has to hear properly and rekindle that position or re-understand one's position. So it's not something to be attained. Our eternal position is already there with a particular form of the Lord, in a particular mood of the Lord, in a particular relationship with the Lord. That is already there. One does not have to, it's not like this material world, we have to endeavor so damn hard to try to get a position and hold our position. We already have a position with Krishna, and therefore there is no fear. There's no need to be anxious about, or artificially designate a position to oneself. But that position is already there. One simply desires to serve the Lord, and when the Lord is pure, when the Lord is satisfied, and we are purified, then we may be given that darshan, that revelation is there in our relationship with Krishna, in which at the core of it is obviously a servant, not the enjoyer. So when the devotee develops a proper mood by which he can see, by which Krishna wants to see him, Krishna wants to be controlled by him. It's being related here that the devotee, the worshipper, the Lord becomes subordinate to the desire of the devotee, so much so that he manifests his particular form as the devotee demands. We see that in Matsya's incarnation, it's mentioned before, like, why did the Lord, what form, why did the Lord I want to hear, Parikshit Maharaj says, how the Lord's love for the devotee, he manifests in all these different forms. And so he hears about Matsya avatar, and how Matsya descends in that particular form just to facilitate that relationship with that devotee, have that loving relationship with that devotee. So when the devotee, and we see so many incidents, Bali Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, Prahlad, so many devotees, because of their intense devotional service, the Lord manifests, it descends to give that devotee audience, to hear that devotee out, to be controlled by that devotee, as we see in the case of even the gopis. So the Lord, when the devotee surrenders with sudarshan, with correct philosophy, correct understanding, the Lord becomes submissive to the devotee. And the devotee is, as Srila Prabhupada relates, not that so that the devotee can exploit him, but the devotee, becomes superior in one sense to Bhagavan in order to serve Bhagavan. The Mother Yashoda takes a superior position to Krishna in order to serve him, not in order to exploit him, not in order to get something from him, not in order to make him a supplier, order supplier. Not that now I've got you in my hands. You see that sometimes even within in the Srimad Bhagavatam and different places like that when you have people perform austerity, the different personalities perform austerities to get benedictions from demigods in order to just have them become the order supplier. Okay, and I did all of this not as a love for you, but for the purpose of getting something for you. Hiranyakashipu, so many other, pretty much throughout the whole Bhagavatam, we see that again and again and again and again. So when the devotee takes his position in which he performs loving devotional service to the Supreme Personality Godhead, to this Sudarshan, correct philosophy, then the Lord becomes subordinate to him. Then the Lord comes, as Srila Prabhupada describes, sits on the lotus heart of the devotee in the eternal form the pure devotee desires. So when one becomes pure and he wants to worship a particular form of the Lord, which he is very much attracted to, then the Lord comes and sits in the heart of the devotee in that form in which the devotee eternally worships him. And and then gets obviously in time gets the personal association of the Lord. That is personal association itself. So he's not disclosed to any casual or inauthentic worshipper to be exploited. The Lord knows everything. He knows Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yogamaya Samavrata. He knows that when one is a fake. So the Lord is never visible to pseudo-devotees who worship the demigods in charge of universal affairs. The conclusion is that Lord cannot become the order supplier of pseudo-devotee, but he is always prepared to respond to the desires of a pure, unconditioned devotee who is free from all tinges of material infection. So by the process of devotional service, we become purified. So then one has to study. One has to study Srila Prabhupada's books. One has to study his own character. One has to study one's own faults. One has to submit to a devotee in order to come up. It's a difficult process. Not that the process is difficult, but we ourselves are difficult persons. We find it difficult to deal with ourselves most of the time, with our own mind and senses, and it's so hard. But you'll find when you take into consideration all of the different processes that are being described, it's a lot actually. There's many different aspects of devotional service that you have to learn to come up in. Major being, controlling the tongue. How does that verse start? What am I? Nectar of Instruction, verse number 1. Vacho vegam manasakroda vegam, being the tongue, and then hearing and chanting properly. Even chanting out rounds is hard. Recently I'm finding even just the mantra is hard to pronounce sometimes. You go through phases where it's just Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Did I say that right? Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And you mess it up, and it's man, you've been doing it for so long, and it's just such a simple thing, but your mind trips up, and then You're sometimes chanting and you chant the wrong thing, and it's like, how the hell did I chant the wrong thing? I've been chanting this. It's so simple. Or you miss a word, or you don't chant properly enough. So it's easy to go off the path. Therefore, in the specifically in the 8th canto, 9th canto, Srila Prabhupada constantly emphasizes the point that one should remain around devotees. It's the Bengali, it's I think Narottam Das Thakur, Bhakti Sanivas. What is this? Tandira Charane? Sebe Bhakti Sanivas. That one should constantly remain at the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas. Because by doing so, one will remain in the Sudarshan, in correct philosophy. It's very hard to deviate when you have other devotees around you who are more fixed up than you or have that platform of Sudarshan. So to keep oneself safe by performing the process of devotional service, that always being around devotees, having Shraddha, having faith, strong faith, so many difficulties come about, so many different changes happen all the time, just like all of a sudden now we're about to sell this temple, and like move to a whole different location and such. Or you may be doing like that, or you may be getting a whole farm, all of a sudden it's a complete different situation, complete new environment, complete different like thing that comes into it. So one has to have faith in the orders of the spiritual master that this will happen, and that whatever happens, whether that it is beneficial to follow the instructions of the spiritual master. So it is important to maintain our devotional service through hearing as the primary process. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada set up as one of our primary things, that hearing in the morning, hearing in the evening. Actually, generally, they call it the sandwich program. Generally, have class in the morning and then class in the evening. Also, Bhagavad Gita. So, making this the center of our lives, as everyone's going on, we have such great devices by which we can hear. They've granted us the ability to hear constantly. So, the Srinvatam Sukata Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana, that constant hearing of the Supreme Personality of Godhead about Him can go on by even we have modern technology and there's all this Yukta Vairagya using it. We have that opportunity now to do that. We don't have to go into the sages of Naimisharanya to hear anymore. We have that ability. Still, it's hard to hear. Sometimes you get tired of hearing. The pure devotees, they never get tired of hearing. How does that verse start? The 3:25:25. Satam prasanga mama vidya samvida. They never get tired of hearing. But we get tired of hearing. So there's many different things to hear also. They may not, sometimes just philosophy of Krishna consciousness, it gets a lot. So then we may hear pastimes of all of the devotees in Srila Prabhupada's time. May hear different devotees' experiences within devotional service. They're all different forms of hearing. Not that one just has to hear exactly like, okay, philosophy. So one has to figure out how to remain absorbed in different ways, know how to control the mind. So by doing this, one can slowly become free from tinge of material infection. And then you'll see how devotional service is reality. So, it's 8:40. I'll end my class there. If there's any questions or comments, please feel free to ask. Okay. Avadhuta Chandra Prabhu.
Towards the end, Prabhupada is mentioning how, according to the realization of the devotee, they surrender unto a particular form of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering, according to one's surrender, does that mean it's of a higher or lower realization? Like, let's say someone surrenders unto like Parshuram, this form of the Lord, but we're always encouraged to worship Krishna as Bhagavan, like the eternal, original, supreme personality of God. So does that mean they have a lesser or higher realization according to the form that they're attracted to?
Not particularly. Maybe that one, it's just like some devotees of Lord Nrsimha. That in itself is perfection. There's transcendental different platforms. How do I say that? There's transcendental gradations. There's transcendental gradations. So it's not less in any sense, but at the same time there is gradations. And so by which one realizes Bhagavan, and specifically Krishna to Bhagavan Swayam, the eternal form of the beauty, sweetness of the Lord in that in that form, but at no point is it any less at all. As all the forms of the Lord are equal in all respects, but at the same time, Krishna being the fountainhead of all the incarnations, and obviously having all of the characteristics of the personality of Godhead in full. So, like you're saying, to the level of the surrender of the devotees, to the particular form of the Lord that he's attracted to, the Lord may take that particular form in order to satisfy that devotee. So it's not in any less in any way, but there's definitely transcendental differences there. Just like within the Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's doesn't mean that cowherd boys are less than the gopis. Although we understand that Madhurya Leela, Vatsalya, Madhurya Bhav is of the topmost. Specifically, even within Madhurya Bhav, within Madhurya, there's the separation, or there's the form of in which one is a, what is that word that's used? One is not a wife, one is a paramour. What is the word that's used for that? I forget. So the paramour, that form of loving relationship with the Lord is considered the Parikya Bhav, is considered the topmost. But at the same time, it's not that Mother Yashoda is any less at all. So every devotee has his particular position, and and that devotee is completely satisfied, completely in that position, and that is his topmost surrender. So different transcendental gradations are there. And it's not that one is less than the other, but at the same time, there is higher levels of, there's levels of affections that Srila Prabhupada defines, and that according to affection. But at the same time, it's not that Mother Yashoda doesn't have any less affection for Krishna. And so there's achinta bheda veda tattva, simultaneously one and different. It's all perfect. At the same time, there are different gradations of it.
Perfect and most perfect.
Perfect and most perfect, yeah. Anything else? Suresh? Offering went up super late, huh? Like 40.
I guess one comment in that regard is, I guess the word they use is intensity. The intensity is different. One thing I wanted to ask was, I guess in pastime of Lord Chaitanya, cleaning the Gundicha Mandir, it's described as like cleaning the heart so that the Lord can come and sit, just like this verse or commentary was saying. But I guess the super soul's already there, so it's not like he's coming to sit, or there's that we're by cleaning the heart we can see, or
specifically described here that thus their hearts cleansed, and you take your seat there. The super soul is already there within the heart, traveling with the devotee. I don't want to speculate too much because there's obviously proper understanding. So the super soul is there, but we can particularly facilitate the particular form of the Lord that we desire to serve. So the super soul is there to guide the living entity through the material universe, and actually the super soul at the end of when one attains liberation, and when one escapes out of this material world, the super soul is no longer with that living entity anymore. So in this, because the Supreme Personality God is fully there in his Bhagavan form. So it seems, I don't want to speculate too much or go, because obviously other devotees can also say here, but that particular form of the Lord, it seems that comes and resides within the heart when we clean it up, and we can finally have the ability to worship the Lord, and we recognize that. And so the Lord manifests as is being described here within the heart of the devotee, to be the devotee can actually see him and worship him like that. And so that's what it seems to indicate here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that is that particular form of the Lord that we worship comes and resides within the heart. So we have Madhava, Shyamasundar, Gopal, Govinda. They're all different moods and different. They're all the same form. Of course, they're all Krishna, but at the same time, there's different moods within that. Shyamasundar, the mood of Shyamasundar in relation to the gopis, the mood of Gopal. He's as a young boy So there's many different, yeah, like that. Is there anything else? Anything from the Matajis? Yes, Iman Mataji.
On the topic of seeing Krishna and in the form of dreams, how you were saying, like, some people say like, oh, Krishna came into my dream, or like, I had this epiphany, or I saw the divine or something, then of course we can understand that that's like, bogus. But when it comes to, devotees who have been in the movement for a really long time, and even the pujari who serves the deity, like, personally. And when we hear stories about, Krishna appearing in their dream, can you help me to understand that?
Yeah, there's many instances also where the Lord has appeared to devotees in the dream and particularly dictated instructions. So yeah, one has to be careful that those instructions that are given, that may be there, that you may see Krishna in our dream, or may see the spiritual master in our dream, they must be in line with Shastra. That not that Krishna comes in your dream and tells you, go to the brothel and drink tomorrow. Not that Krishna comes and tells you in your dream, or tomorrow you can, you can go and do some nonsense, or such and such. That the result of darshan, the result of seeing or being seen by Krishna, is that there's a change of heart. That I was mentioning, that there is a visible difference in the devotee, that he has seen Krishna. That means, okay, he's not seeing Maya anymore. He's not trying to fall away from Krishna consciousness, or he doesn't fall away, or he performs he's practically seen Aituki Bhakti, that there's no material desire in his devotional service. But there may be cases in which the Lord wants to reveal to us, even though we may not be pure. But the Lord Himself, satisfied by our devotional service, may just appear and instruct us in particular ways. So that may be taken seriously also. But it cannot be propagated. It should be, generally when one is in proper understanding, then he doesn't propagate that, because he knows that, just like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying, then it will become cheap, and other people will not understand how to actually see the Lord. Then everybody will go, oh, I saw Krishna, I'm a pujari, I saw Krishna come in my dream yesterday, and he said this, and then, oh, okay, it's a way of like also, you meet so many people like that. It's like both, like just kind of making up something just to kind of like, seem advanced. So it has to be seen. As it be seen, and whether it is actually that devotee is actually seeing the Lord or not. Sometimes it's just like we see there's many pastimes when the Lord appears to devotees and tells them, there's like people come, there's like some event going to happen, it's going to be bad, and so take me away, and which the devotee take him away, and then something crazy happens. So there's definitely the revelation of the Lord, but it should not be like a very casual thing. It should not be a casual thing. Oh yeah, the Krishna came to me in my dream, and I saw Krishna. So it should always be in accordance with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. That is our verifications of seeing Krishna. And then and one has to surrender, and continue to surrender. Ye yatamam prabhadyanti. So, yeah, it's definitely not a very straightforward thing. There's definitely times where Krishna may appear in our lives and instruct us in particular ways. The spiritual master may appear in our lives, instruct us in a particular way, but it has to be seen that it has to also be in line.
And one more thing, if we're not, I would say like physically seeing the Lord, like when people say like show me God, to my small understanding is that sometimes they'll be like they want to actually like see God, like actual like their form or His form.
Mm-hmm.
But when I've been asking this question around to my seniorities a lot, and I've been getting different answers, so maybe you can help me with this as well, that even though we may be doing, devotional service, and for me and my conditioning, it's like in order for me to like believe in some, like before, like even before for me to believe in something, I would have to like see it for myself, But in the process of Krishna consciousness, like doing your devotional service, you were saying that you also can see Krishna in that way, like you actually see serving the devotees and following the orders of the spiritual master. Then, so my question is, if you don't, I would say physically see God, like but can you see God in like in those different ways, like you know, like throughout your
because Krishna is working through different ways. Even especially, I mention a lot of the times when I speak that intense devotional service. When you're performing intense devotional service, you'll be able to gain the darshan of the Lord through His mercy. Or Krishna will reveal Himself in a way in which it's not exactly like, oh, I saw Him, but you can understand, okay, Krishna is satisfied. So yeah, like you can see Krishna through devotional service. You're performing specifically, my experience being specifically on book distribution, of performing intensely book distribution, then you can understand Krishna is pleased. And Srila Prabhupada says that in many places. If you want to please the Lord very quickly, then you preach. You go out and distribute books. You go out and talk about Krishna to others. Then Krishna is, even if you try, even if you're not successful, then Krishna is immediately pleased. And you have that experience on books, or whether you're trying to fulfill the orders of the spiritual master in different ways. But that intensity of that consciousness, the samadhi of just one pointed attention towards that service, if you've ever done that before, then you know, okay, it's like everything you're doing is in accordance with what Srila Prabhupada has said. And there's material desire there for sure, but in that moment of intensity, you can even understand what it feels like not to have material desire. It's very momentary. I'm not saying that it's like, all of a sudden, it's like, you can see, this is what it feels like to be Krishna conscious. Like, just, there's no worries. You ain't thinking about anything else but the service, and you just don't care. Like, you forget your body, you forget just everything that is extension of this body, family, home, country, all of these things, and you're just focused on just serving Krishna. And you can understand in those moments, it's very rare to come across those. But when you have that moment, it's like, it's like, this is what Krishna consciousness is. And you can see Krishna in the sense that, how the living entity is the eternal servant of Krishna. How that in that position of intensity and complete, utter concentration upon serving Krishna, that's like supreme satisfaction. There's nothing more. There's nothing else there. There's nothing more to be had than just that. And then all your material desires come back in, after a couple of minutes, and you realize, long way to go. But intensity is required, and we've talked about that. Intensity doesn't mean burning yourself out, but when you're doing the service, there's a level of consciousness you can get into. You can get into that mode of Krishna consciousness. And yeah, you can see Krishna. You can, in your book distribution, you see you're praying, and you're really trying your hard, and Krishna is all of a sudden sending so many people, and people are taking books without you having to do much anymore. And it's like, it's like, it's like, okay, Krishna is there. Or even when it's difficult and you're still going on, Krishna is there. So Krishna can only be captured through that position of unmotivated devotional service. And you can realize, and Srila Prabhupada is saying these things on this purport, and it's not just something to read. It's very important to understand. It's not just something to read, but we can try to understand the practical experiences of it. And we can understand and come to the level of first intelligence by having that practical experience and then saying, okay, this is something real. So it's not something just to philosophize. I'm sure devotees have experienced that also. It's not just, all philosophy. So then we can relate it. When we read this, it's like, that's what Srila Prabhupada is talking about. by the service of the devotee, that even Krishna is attracted, and he gives darshan. He himself comes to see the devotee. And Lord Chaitanya comes to see the Sankirtan party on the streets. It's a fact. Srila Prabhupada, and when Srila Prabhupada is there, and people, doing all of these, even Narada Muni, great personality like Narada Muni, Brahma, they all come, they all come to see the Lord, and the Lord himself is attracted to come and see the Sankirtan, to come and see the pure devotional service that the devotees are performing. So yeah, it's there. It's practical experience is there within our own Krishna consciousness. It's not all theoretical. It's not all just this, not just sitting up here and talking about it. But we can say, not out of pride, I know there's so much material desire and all of that. And we can say there's a level of that hopefully we've attracted the mercy of the Lord, and hopefully it wasn't just some illusion. But it's a fact that because of those experiences, we're more determined in devotion service, more surrendered in devotion service, and then it was a fact that we did have that experience. Because we didn't become some sahajya, we didn't become some nonsense. Our symptoms were seen that we try to become more surrendered to the Lord by that experience. So yeah, intensity, pick up the intensity, become more Krishna conscious. And then you can see every day, every moment of our lives, no material desire, how nice that would be, to always be absorbed in Krishna. Okay, is there anything else? No. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpadurvishya kripa sindhu bheva cha pratyana parame Vishnu.